Think of living in a state of total tranquility, where no word is eternal, no adversity or even any obstacle is capable of causing. The main objective of Stoicism is to prevent everything around you from harming you. It's not about turning your mind into an impenetrable fortress. It's not about hiding from world or avoiding difficulties, but rather facing them with bravery and discernment. After all, the external world will never have an influence on you if your mind is in balance. How many times have you lost your peace over something small? The reality is that you allowed the actions of others to steal your happiness. The impulsive reality only weakens us. When we choose not to be influenced, we discover true strength, the power to manage your emotions and behaviors as the great Stoic philosophers did. The masters taught that what matters is not what happens, but how you choose to interpret what happens. The experience of being unshakable is a skill that can be learned. Today we will explore muscular strength through 8 exercises. With Estoi's lessons, you will learn to act as if nothing could affect you. Each lesson is essential to form that mental armor that will allow you to face the storms of life. It is possible to live with firmness and clarity through practical strategies, timeless secrets that can change the way you face any circumstances if you wish to master the situation. This is the moment before we begin. Leave your like to start. To allow more people to access this transformative content, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any lessons. Write the secret phrase of the day in the comments. Thus, you not only intensify learning, but also highlight the learning. Who is committed to evolution? Let's embark on this adventure together. Protect yourself from the internal adversary. The greatest battle you fight is not external. It's outside, but in our own minds. We are our greatest critics, often allowing this to happen. Let's allow uncontrollable thoughts and emotions to dominate us and wear down our tranquility. It instructs that the cause of suffering is not always in the events themselves, but in the interpretations we attribute to them. Epicteto stated that it is not things that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them from that perspective. We can create an invisible shield against any adversity by altering the way we interpret the world. Reflect on a recent circumstance that left you shaken. It could have been a criticism at work or a comment, a negative comment on social media, or a conversation with someone close likely triggered an initial occurrence. A flood of questions. Why are they doing this to me, or shouldn't I be doing this? This flow of thoughts is not something we can control. We can learn to identify and control it before it devours us. The construction of the invisible shield begins with its identification and control. Here, know that you are the guardian of your mind. This shield is not an obstacle. It is not something that arises out of nowhere. It is built through the constant practice of challenging automatic thoughts and questioning oneself. For example, if someone insults you, does that really deserve my attention? There are 2 alternatives: absorb the words and hurt yourself, or understand that words only have power if they are understood. Unless you give them importance, the insult is just meaningless noise. Let it enter your mental fortress. The Stoics also teach us to distinguish what is under our control from what is beyond our control. That the occurrence of an event is not under your control. By accepting this, you realize that you can choose peace even amidst chaos. Think of a shield that not only protects against external attacks but also reflects internal attacks. Return as if nothing had happened. This shield is your ability to forget. Decide what enters and what is discarded in your mind. Practice not identifying with them. When dealing with our own thoughts and emotions, we often think we are our own thoughts, a mistake we frequently make. When observing your thoughts with curiosity instead of judgment, you create space for choices. We can lead ourselves to act impulsively, but in reality it is not the thoughts that arise but the observer. It seems that there is no text provided for translation. Please share the text you'd like me to translate and I'll be happy to assist you. How to deal with this is stimulating and a crucial component of Stoic training. To put this lesson into practice, start by reflecting on situations that would normally distract you. When a problem arises, ask yourself, is this under my control? By strengthening your invisible shield, you strengthen your resistance against the storms of life. Does this thought or feeling reflect reality, or my interpretation of it? This constant self-analysis is what keeps me in constant self-analysis. This constant self-analysis is what keeps me in constant self-analysis. In the end, you will understand that the greatest adversary is not what happens, but rather how you interpret what happens. In the end, you will understand that the greatest adversary is not what happens, but rather how you interpret what happens. Do not be impacted by anything that hinders this strength when cultivated. Do not deny feelings or avoid difficulties, but be fully aware that you have the ability to overcome them. It seems that there is no text provided for translation. Please share the text you would like me to translate. The way you experience life by putting yourself in charge of your own story, start building your own shield. Today, the master of silence dominates the ability not to react. In contemporary society, we are constantly urged to react. Silence is one of the most undervalued tactics, yet also one of the most practical that you can implement in your life. In contemporary society, we are constantly urged to react. Silence is one of the most undervalued tactics, yet also one of the most practical that you can implement in your life. Whether on social media, where every point of view seems to demand an immediate response, or in our personal relationships, where every opinion seems to demand an immediate response. Whether on social media, where every point of view seems to demand an immediate response, or in our personal relationships, where every opinion seems to demand an immediate response, where the desire to have the final word dominates our interactions. But what if you had the final word? If you had the option not to react, and instead chose silence as a sign of strength, not weakness? Stoicism shows us that inaction is a conscious act of self-control. Think of a person you insult in public. In the presence of many in public, the natural occurrence would be a shouted insult or justification. However, by reacting, you transfer emotional control to another person, while by choosing silence, you show that you are the one in charge. Your actions are yours, and not the provocations of others. It is a way of expressing without words. In your words, I do not submit to your provocations. The meditations remind us that you have control over your mind, not over external events. Understand this, and you will discover inner strength. That strength is in command. Silence is not limited to the absence of words, but is also a place where one can observe. Therefore, it is necessary to process and decide whether or how to respond to silence. Take time to reflect, observe your emotions, and avoid hasty reactions that often occur. When motivated by anger or frustration, silence has the power to disarm the other. When an occurrence is expected, whether it be out of anger or defense, and what was expected is not received, it is like throwing cold water on the fire. The silence interrupted the complaint response, turning a potential argument into a moment of reflection for both parties. Perhaps another individual, upon not receiving a response, realizes that their behavior is inappropriate or meaningless. Realize that it doesn't matter if you maintain your calm, but you couldn't master the silence. Means avoiding inevitable conflicts or avoiding responsibilities. There are times when speaking is crucial. Although silence can be interpreted as omission or disinterest, even in those cases, silence can be interpreted as omission or disinterest. At certain moments, silence before speaking is crucial, as it allows for the formulation of ideas, a thoughtful occurrence that is in harmony with your values and goals, instead of simply reacting to the emotion of the moment. In practice, the ability to master silence requires practice. Next time you feel the urge, practice. Before immediately responding to an offensive comment, a provocation, or an uncomfortable situation, pause and take a deep breath. Reflect deeply on whether this response truly contributes to changing something, the situation, or just intensify the issue. In various situations you will notice conflict, but also a way to connect with yourself. Remember that silence is not just a tool in conflict situations. It seems there is no text provided for translation. Please share the text you'd like me to translate, and I'll be happy to assist you. Reflection, whether external or internal, creates space for self-knowledge. By establishing periods of silence in your life, you learn to listen to your own mind and differentiate what is real from what is imaginary. In the end, being the master of silence is not about silencing oneself. It's not out of weakness, but rather out of wisdom. True strength lies in the ability that few have, but that everyone admires. Knowing that you can react, but choosing not to, is the power of being unshakable. The art of disdain consists of ignoring what is unimportant. Not everything deserves your attention. Pay attention. This is a truth that many know, but few put into practice. We live in a world where information is scarce, and practice is scarce. In a world where we are incessantly bombarded with news, opinions, criticisms, and praise, yet we cannot concentrate. In Stoicism, wisdom lies in discerning what should be accepted and, more crucially, what should be rejected. That the ability to disregard what is irrelevant is one of the greatest human losses. More effective instruments for achieving inner peace. Ignoring is not about that. Arrogance or superiority does not imply the infection of people or situations, but rather the communication of people or situations. To safeguard your mind from everything that is irrelevant to your journey, reflect. A stone in the middle of a river does not oppose the current, nor is it carried by it in the same way. You need to learn to observe what is happening around you without getting emotionally involved with anything. He is not insensitive, but selective. He values your mental energy as a valuable asset. How many times have you wasted time with someone who wasn't interested? Either you see or you are consumed by the background. Contempt makes no sense. The smart antidote to these wear and tear is not to flee, but simply to ignore. When you consciously decide where to focus your attention, you are declaring that only what is important is what is important. What truly matters will have a place in your life, thanks to one of the greatest masters in the world. Stoicism asserted that nothing is more worthy of contempt than worrying about one's own well-being. This phrase teaches us that it is important not to care about what others think. Frequently, what we hear or talk about is a trap for our minds. Allowing yourself to be influenced by the opinions of others is like handing over your power to them. Carrying a suitcase full of stones that is not yours is not liberating. If the answer is no, it will be relevant a year from now. The practice of the art of indifference requires 3 basic steps. First, ask yourself this question. If the answer is no, it will be relevant a year from now. The practice of the art of indifference requires 3 basic steps. First, ask yourself this question. Determine what is truly relevant to you if a situation or comment does not add value to your thoughts. Determine what is truly relevant to you if a situation or comment does not add value to your thoughts. Third, do not let values or goals take away your peace. Emotional despair does not imply that you don't care, only that you don't allow the external world to define how you feel. By applying this lesson, you will notice that your mind will expand. As you become lighter and your energy more equipped, you begin to identify what is real. We have no control over the actions of others, only over how we respond to them. After all, as Epictetus taught, it is necessary to distinguish what deserves your attention from what should be ignored. We have no control over the actions of others, only over how we respond to them. After all, as Epictetus taught, it is necessary to distinguish what deserves your attention from what should be ignored. Clarity is the foundation for living with more freedom and tranquility. Clarity is the foundation for living with more freedom and tranquility. Make art your way of life. Make contempt a daily habit, ignoring empty provocations and dramas. Discard unnecessary expenses and distractions that are not important for your growth. You are not created to fight all battles, but to win them. For those that truly matter, choose wisdom over the unshakable horizon. Think beyond the horizon. Now, what seems intolerable today will be just a distant memory tomorrow. This is one of the deepest truths of Stoicism and also one of the most effective tools for dealing with crisis. When you face adversity, it is easy to lose the intensity of the moment and feel that the pain is intense. The discomfort or frustration are constant, but the Stoic sees beyond the present. He understands that everything in life is transient, that today's storm does not determine tomorrow, and that in the end, everything resolves itself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic emperors and philosophers, dissolves into time. Remind us if it is tolerable, then endure this simple yet meaningful phrase. The Stoic possesses the essence of a resilient mindset, for they do not deny the existence of suffering. But it is also regular to understand that suffering is temporary, and to comprehend that adversities, no matter how difficult they are are only temporary. Although it may seem to have an expiration date, this perspective broadens the horizon. The mental horizon helps us understand that the present moment is just a fraction of the whole. Think of a storm when the weather is frightening. We are in the midst of it, and the feeling is that it will never end, but inexorably, it will. Just as the storm passes, the sky clears and tranquility returns, the calm periods also pass. When you train your mind to see beyond the current moment, you realize you are closer to the solution. Contrary to popular belief, this attitude not only provides emotional relief but also promotes mental health. A Stoic can see clearly to make wiser choices. He does not get lost in his emotions. He navigates through them, knowing that soon he will find calm waters. An effective way to cultivate this unchanging horizon is to question this horizon. The problem will still be relevant a year from now and 5 years from now. Reflection puts the current situation in perspective and reduces the emotional weight. What seemed to be a crisis without a solution can, in reality, be just a minor obstacle. The ability to resize problems is one of the main characteristics of Stoicism and an advantage for those who seek excellence. Act as if nothing affects them. Thinking beyond the present has no meaning for them. We should not ignore the present, but rather analyze the present with an expanded perspective. It's like looking at a map. While many get lost in the labyrinth of fleeting emotions, the Stoic climbs to a high point. He'll observe the entire journey of this ability to distance oneself. Emotionally, it allows for clearer vision and more rational choices. To implement this lesson, it is essential to practice moments of meditation and introspection. In a few minutes each day, visualize a challenge you are facing and envision how you will see yourself in the future. In the future, we will often see that moment, which seems so grand. In the future, it will be something small and even insignificant. The secret to overcoming any obstacle lies in the way you interpret it. By transcending the present moment, you realize that you possess much more strength and inner capabilities than you initially assumed. That life is composed of cycles and that even the greatest landscapes like the horizon are always in constant change. Continue moving forward with tranquility and confidence. After all, what seems like a problem today might be a solution tomorrow. An insurmountable challenge tomorrow will be just another step in your life journey. With the pressure of expectation, you can free yourself from the need for control. We all create scenarios in our minds about how things happen, how things should happen, and how the world should react. Despite our efforts, it is precisely in this desire for control that the problem lies. Most of human suffering occurs when we expect everything to go exactly as planned, making us slaves to an unrealistic expectation. In Stoicism, the world has never been and will never be completely predictable. The focus is not on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions. Everything beyond that is seen as external, something that should not be taken into consideration. To determine our inner peace or consume our energy, think about how many things we can do. Many times you were mistaken because something did not go as planned, perhaps a promotion at work that did not happen, a person who did not meet your expectations, or a plan that did not work out. The problem was not in the event itself, but in its interpretation. This happens because by setting strict expectations, we create heavy expectations. You hand over your well-being to something you have no control over, but learn to accept what happens as an inescapable component of life, focusing on what is within your reach. Free yourself from the habit. When trying to control others, each individual follows their own path, and it is not possible to force anyone to act according to their own path. This applies to colleagues, partners, and friends. Even among relatives, frustration arises when we wish others were different than they really are. But as Marcus Aurelius stated, start each day with the awareness of what you will encounter. Don't be surprised by ungrateful, dishonest, envious, and rude people. Accepting this reality does not represent pessimism, but rather wisdom. Challenge the world and people to be as you wish, allowing true peace to settle in. An effective strategy for dealing with the weight of expectations is to ask yourself, does this depend on me? If the answer is affirmative, do your best. If the answer is don't let go, for example, you have the ability to control the process. You strive to do your job, but you don't see evidence from your boss? Be kind to people, but don't try to control whether they reciprocate this simple distinction. What distinguishes freedom from freedom is the discovery of something extraordinary when you free yourself from the need for control. The things that once seemed immense become small, and your energy is redistributed to what truly matters. Do you realize that expectations are like invisible chains that bind you to suffering? Letting go of those chains can be liberating. Choose to invest your energy in what can transform you. True control has never been in the external world. It has always been within. How you choose to respond, interpret, and experience the situations that are presented. Peace is not found in an ideal world, but in a spirit that accepts imperfection with wisdom. In Stoicism, discomfort is not perceived as a problem, not as something to be avoided, but as an opportunity for growth. Accepting discomfort instead of avoiding it is one of the most impactful lessons you can apply in your daily life. Conscious choice to expose yourself to what causes discomfort, whether physically or emotionally. The strengthening of your mind will become more resilient and ready to handle any situation. In adversity, history shows that discomfort is temporary, but strength is permanent. Imagine a cold morning where the experience gained from overcoming it is rigor. The task of getting out of bed seems to be the most challenging of the day, but the history doesn't hesitate. Realizing in the cold water of the shower or walking in an environment challenges a challenge. Opportunity to test the limits of the mind when dealing with physical discomfort. This practice promotes discipline and self-control. It may seem easy, but it teaches us that the mind is much more powerful than we imagine. By getting used to small amounts of discomfort, you develop a kind of immunity. This philosophy also applies to the great challenges of life. Emotional conflicts and discomforts are inevitable, but they don't have to be. Sêneca argues that we should prepare for the worst, not in a pessimistic way, but in an optimistic way. Strategists see life's adversities as exercises for the spirit. Like an athlete, you strengthen your muscles to bear heavier loads and fortify your soul through actions. Instead of avoiding challenging situations, ask yourself, what can this experience teach me about this mindset transformation? Transform each barrier into a step towards personal development. Planned discomfort is a strategy to increase resilience to adversities. External actions such as intermittent fasting and physical activities. Challenges or even avoiding certain material comforts demonstrate that luxury is not synonymous with material comfort. By choosing to renounce something for a period, you discover that happiness is not defined. You need less than you think. This perspective reduces dependence on external elements and enhances your independence. Learning to find peace in discomfort is liberating when you understand that peace resides in discomfort. Life doesn't always need to be comfortable. Stop fearing the unexpected. Think about the effect this would have on your daily routine. Wouldn't a colleague's criticism be a problem? Daily power of the present moment. When facing uncomfortable situations, your mind focuses completely on the now, disconnecting from future anxieties or past grievances. This is one of the greatest gifts of discomfort, is that it teaches us to live more consciously and connectedly. Embrace the cold as your ally. Do not avoid discomfort. Seek it out strategically. Face physical challenges, accept emotional difficulties, and give up certain comforts by your own choice when doing so. You will not only find peace amidst the chaos, but also become the very personification of stoic resilience. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your challenging day at work would not be enough to shake your self-confidence. This inner strength manifests as serenity in the face of adversity. The practice of discomfort also helps to reclaim this inner strength. When dealing with uncomfortable situations, your mind becomes stronger. Focus entirely on the present, distancing yourself from future worries or past regrets. Discomfort is one of the greatest victories, as it teaches us to live more consciously and connected. Adopt the cold as your life companion. Don't avoid discomfort, seek it out strategically. Overcome physical obstacles, face emotional challenges, and give up certain comforts by your own decision. Not only find peace amidst chaos, but also become peace itself. Representation of stoic resilience. Discomfort is not your adversary, but rather your ally. Teaches the importance of indifference. What happens around you is a direct mirror of who you are. A large part of the suffering we carry comes from our own nature. The tendency to personalize events and selected actions as if they were specifically directed at us. The habit of interpreting events through a personal lens makes us susceptible to attacks. Caught in an emotional trap, Stoicism instructs us that it is necessary to develop emotional intelligence. Indifference is an act of emotional intelligence and an expression of inner strength. Imagine a common situation where someone shows indifference, when someone makes a harsh remark or behaves in a hostile manner towards you. It is a result of their own experience. It may be motivated by anger or resentment, considering this behavior as a personal attack. However, think for a moment that often people are motivated by their internal struggles, stress, or ignorance, and not by something related to you. As Sêneca stated, frequently, we are more impacted by our imagination than by reality. In other words, the effect of an action is directly linked to the way you interpret it when you perform it. You understand that not everything is around you. You discover a freedom that few can achieve, but what does indifference mean? Stoicism is not about apathy or even the absence of empathy. It is a choice that does not respond excessively to external stimuli that are not recommended for your peace or goal. It is a state of clarity to be aware of not being carried away by the heat of the moment. That distinguishes the essential from the accessory, keeping the focus on what truly matters when you are focused. You realize that you have the ability to decide how to act or even not to react. Self-control is a concrete example of Stoic indifference. Observed on social media. How many times have you witnessed someone being attacked or criticized online? When a victim chooses not to react, the situation often resolves itself. This happens because the conflict is fueled by the occurrence, while indifference is wasted by disregarding the attack on the person. Maintaining dignity and protecting your inner peace, however, acting impulsively can result in a vicious cycle of aggression and disappointments. Now, how to maintain this indifference in practice? Initially, understand that the opinions and attitudes of others do not determine your worth. The approval of others is not necessary for your worth. Remember, what others think or do is a manifestation of them, not you. When something bothers you, take a pause, breathe deeply, and analyze the situation. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, does this really matter in my life? Finally, train your focus to direct your attention. Just channel your energy into what is under your control. The rest should be considered noise. Indifference is not about that. It's not about ignoring the people or the statements around you, but rather about safeguarding your mind from being overwhelmed by chaos. As you practice, you realize that most of the things that used to irritate you no longer cause you worry or concern. They simply don't deserve your attention and therefore don't deserve your attention. Adopting this practice in your life can be a mistake. It's like establishing an emotional filter only for what is constructive and useful. When you master the essentials, everything else is discarded. The value of indifference reveals a tranquility that is not based on external statistics. Be an observer, not a participant. Like a sponge that absorbs everything around it, the world will continue to function chaotically, but you have the option not to allow it. Indifference is the secret to getting through life with tranquility, without wearing yourself out over what isn't important. In the end, the poison of comparison is not relevant. Just observe. Comparison is one of the greatest threats to inner peace. It makes us compare, puts us in an incessant search for patterns that are not always ours or even authentic in Stoicism. It is essential to live according to your own essence. A unique journey with challenges, skills, and possibilities that cannot be quantified. In a world where we are constantly evaluated by others' standards, however, in a world where we are constantly exposed, it's easy to be swayed by the discoveries and seemingly perfect lives of others. Comparing our backstage to the stage illuminated by others is what Marcus Aurelius did. Don't throw away what you have, wishing for what you don't have. This teaching reminds us that comparison robs us of our individuality. When you observe someone's success or contentment, you feel present. What is delayed is disregarding the victories and progress I have already achieved on the neighbor's lawn. It looks greener, but we rarely take into account the effort he made to keep it that way, or even if that grass was cultivated by him. After all, external splendor often hides invisible battles. Every time we compare ourselves to someone else's success, we are distancing ourselves from our essence. The Stoic understands that the only valid comparison is with oneself. If you are striving to be a little better each day, you are already on the right path. Think about it. When comparing your journey to someone else's, you usually feel motivated or demotivated. The result is anxiety, frustration, and a feeling of incapacity. These feelings are not suitable for any purpose. Stoic purpose, as they only distract from what is truly important. Imagine a runner on a track if they had internal progress. He is always looking at the other runners, losing focus and rhythm. It is impossible to control their performance, but it is possible to control your own performance. This is how we should live when we only look at ourselves. Start to appreciate every small victory and understand that every small achievement is important. Your progress happens in your own time. Some reach their peak earlier, while others reach it later. Late, and that is not relevant. What is important is to avoid comparison. Frequently, it relies on illusions on social media, such as, for example, people who base their lives on illusions on social media, showing only moments of joy, victories, and achievements. This creates a void. The illusion that their lives are impeccable, but no one shares the defeats, the difficult days, or the failures. It's early to compare yourself to something so distorted. It's unfair to yourself to compare yourself to something so distorted. Confronting a reality with a fantasy to combat this poison. Whenever you feel envy or frustration, practice gratitude for what you already have. When observing someone else's life, take a pause and think about the positive things they have. Reinforce your internal focus by asking how you can evolve. Stoicism does not instruct us to disregard evolution, but rather to accept it. Focus on personal growth without being swayed by others' progress. Don't forget that your life is yours, and there is no competition, because there are no two lives alike. When you understand this, there is no competition. If you've made it this far, congratulations. This indicates that you have achieved freedom. Committed to turning your mind into an authentic fortress, I know. We live in a world full of challenges, but it is precisely because of these distractions and pressures that we must apply these lessons. Stoics have practical tools to act as if nothing could affect you. Believe me, by implementing these ideas, your life will never be the same. If this content has been relevant to you, leave your like right now. Additionally, subscribe to the channel to help it reach more individuals who have also reported this impactful message. And turn on the alert to be notified of the upcoming Stoic lessons. Continue to strengthen your mind daily with us, and for those who have been involved so far, I have a special request. Comment below with the phrase, "I stayed until the end," so I can know who really participated. It is dedicated to your evolution and to everyone who is part of this wonderful community. Each comment is crucial and highlights our unity in this Stoic journey, so what are you waiting for? Leave your comment, your like, and join this change until the next video. Leave your comment, your like, and participate in this change until the next video. Please provide the text you would like me to translate.